Morning everybody. We're off to Acorn Fishery for a change this morning. It's just an open really this morning. It's actually an Ace of Acorn qualifier. We qualified much earlier in the year, as any of you sort of watch my videos know, but it's just a nice place to fish. You're going to get some bites, so we'll get on down to Acorn, get in the bridge, have a bit of breakfast, see if that egg's got any better, can't we? And we get round there and fingers crossed we're bungo. We'll need a bit of a draw today. There's some good anglers going, and it's an open, so there's no sort of section points and things, so we'll be attacking it a little bit today. See you down there. So we have our first fish from cab potting across, just 4mm hard pellets across. The ones we're sort of dripping in close are 6mm, but across it's 4mm, and we're also priming that pinging line off to the left there, as you can see, again with 4mm. Still trying to find our range with the catapult at the moment. There you go. So when it comes down to those 4mm, I do try and find a nice big 4mm, I must admit. I always sort of, when I go in the shops and that, I'm always sort of looking at the hard pellets, the Coppins pellets as well I want for a cross, 4mm Coppins pellets. And I'm always sort of looking for a nice big 4. I don't want it to be like a 6, but something like that sort of in-between size, like a nice 4.5, 5mm, you know. If I spot one, a bag like that, then I'll buy several bags, because the next time those pellets come out, regardless of who makes them, I guarantee they won't be exactly the same. So always nice to get that first fish in the net, isn't it? So the format at the moment is throwing some 6mm hard pellets short, but the 6mm we're throwing are screttings because I think the coppins are a bit too big. But we ping in 4mm coppins across, and then we go over, try and nick one with a cab pot, as we were saying. And I'm just trying to build these other two lines, pinging those 4mm across and just flicking in 3, 4, 6mm screttings short. No rush. Early part of the match, you're just looking to build those lines, be steady. It doesn't matter if you fall behind whoever's sort of in, the front runners. What you do need to do though is stay within striking distance, if you like. Do you know what I mean? You don't want to be miles behind. You just got to be steady. So we just try and lift into those fish across. As we said before, less disturbance caused by the fish, resulting in less fish being spooked across. And if you just lift, you miss a bite, you can just lower that rig back in those couple of inches, can't you? So as you've probably noticed as well, we've chose the cad pot closer to the bridge and that bit of scum that's gathered there, and have our ping line away. Um, the reason is for that is because I think the ping line, um, because of the noise it makes, it's a really good attractor that attracts fish. So I want to attract fish away from the bridge, away from the cover, if that's where they're sat. Also draw them in from the left as well, look. And then just cab potting over near the scum in the bridge, there could already be one or two fish loitering there, couldn't there? And something else we do with the ping line is we try and sort of ping it a couple of meters away, or in this case, probably 3 meters away from where we're cab potting. But I'm also trying to put it up against a bit of grass that's hanging over the boards. That way, it's a little bit easier to see that red float. I've noticed up against the boards, it's quite a little bit. It's not quite as easy to see. So we try and do that just to make things easier for ourselves. That's a good stamp fish. Because we gained some interest across from the ducks there as well with our loose feed pellet. We don't mind them. We have a quick look short, still no good. Across on the cab potting line. I don't want to go on that ping line too early. That potting line's not fast, but it's steady. You know you're going to catch a few fish on it, And in the first hour, that's all you want to do. So that short line on our left hasn't come that good. So I'm trying to sort of develop another line, and we've got another rig there. The top kit line to our left, where we've been dropping in 2 or 3 6mm screttings, is about 3 foot deep. The one on the bridge there we're throwing a few pellets to is a little bit further down the shelf. We got about 4 foot. So I'm just dripping 1 or 2 pellets in on both those lines now. And I wanted to start in that deeper water because I think you can catch in the shallower water across because you're further away. The fish are further away from yourself. They don't want to come up too close to you too early. Give them a little bit of depth coming up close to you and they might. Wow, that fish actually it can't be hooked properly, can it? But actually bumped into another fish. I think the fish that jumped out of the water isn't the one I've hooked. I don't think it was. Ah, it's not properly hooked, is it? Reversing him in. If you're fishing lightish gear and the fish is taking a while to land, just take your time and refeed. It's important to keep a steady trickle of pellets going in, really. Last. As you can see, we're onto that ping line now. When you're doing this, feeding these sort of matches, you want to try and get into some sort of rhythm, really. Once you've hooked a fish, get used to feeding a little bit on those lines. Keep all the lines sort of fed. Don't have to go mad, just a few pellets. And you want to be feeding before your rig's over. There that way it sort of reduces the chance of foul hooking like we did just now, really. So let's look at the whole process, speed it up a bit. So we ping a few pellets along. We take the rig out, which is very light. The rig we're using on the ping line is just a zero point 0.1 float. I think I've got three number 13s below it and they're sort of spread down the line. And I tend to move them about to just change the rate of the drop of that pellet as well. I sort of move them about. Um, Sometimes there's a sort of a better speed of drop than others, really. Same pellet in the band as well. Then we go on our short line, just to rest that pinging line. And not because there's no fish on the pinging line, but once I go over there and I'm sort of waiting, let's say up to 90 seconds and 2 minutes, um, for me, it's time to come off it and rest it and build it back up again. if you stay on it and just slaughter them, they'll just disappear altogether. And we're still quite early in the match. You don't want to do that. Just got to be steady. This feels like a good fish, to be honest, on lightish kit. And the kit I'm using here on this rig in that 4 foot of water is a 4x12 rube, dotted right down though, 018 main line, an 014 hook length, and an 18 Guru PTFE LWG hook. And soft elastic there, as you can see, because we're fishing at an angle for one, and also in that depth of water we could catch skimmers, we could catch tench and all sorts of other species as well, and I don't want to pull out a fish. And the rig's finally finished off on the end on the hook there with a little latex band. I think the size I've got on this is small, because we're using a 6mm pellet, aren't we? 6mm Screttins pellet on this. I use a cross. I use a microband for the 4mm, by the way. Oh, that's a £10 carp, that is. So as I was saying with the rig across, what I try and do is sort of lay the rig in. It's a little bit awkward, if I'm honest, across there. One, the ducks have knocked one or two bits of that long grass sort of out across the water. It makes it very difficult to lie it in. But also that little gentle breeze we got coming in from our left, because there's sort of arm off round the corner to my left here. That just sort of hampers us to lie it in, so is my pole's to the right and my pellet goes into the left, if I've sort of explained that right, to sort of lie it in that way. Really I want to lie it in with the wind behind me, which means my pole into the wind and the pellet towards the bridge, but I can't because of the grass and that, and also the angle of the bank. It looks straight but it's actually angled away from me, and when I do it that way it's hard to judge and your pellet can end up on the grass. So there's an odd carp moving around shallow as well, which generally is by bridges, but I've chose to ignore shallow today. And the reasons being is just lately I found you sort of go shallow, you'll catch one or two really quickly and then nothing, and you can just waste quite a bit of time messing about chasing fish. Even when it comes down to mugging, you can mug one or two and then all of a sudden you're just sort of chasing the rainbows really. So I've just ignored that. We're catching plenty without doing it, and it allows me to sort of focus on building these lines and that, and sort of nurturing the peg, if you like. Lovely big tench. So we've cut out about 90 minutes of the match now, and it's been quite steady. We've caught across, as you were seeing, and we've caught odd fish by the bridge, not loads, but odd ones, enough to give that across a break. And now we've just dropped onto that top kit short line in 3 foot of water, and we're getting a very odd fish on that as well. So nothing fast, but it's steady, isn't it? And that's our first one from down the edge. So down the edge at the moment we're using a medium-sized guru pot. This can change though as we go. I will change pot sizes and it makes quite a difference actually. But we'll get into that in a bit. So the rig itself is 0.2 main line, nothing really silly heavy, 0.16 hook length and a 16 B911. So as you've seen, we simply empty the pot and lower our treble maggot hook bait down with the clump of ground bait. It's a bit like a method feeder if you can imagine it, and you're trying to get your maggots to lower down with that ground bait, and then once it hits bottom, if there's a fish present, it will just suck the lot up in one go and you're in. If you lower the maggot too soon, you can end up foul hooking. If you lower it too late, you could end up lying it on a fish, or you could just be too late to get that quick bite. So what I do is sort of count it down. It sounds a bit silly, but I've got about, it's more than 2 foot, I'd say 28 inches there at the moment down the edge. So what I try and do is hold it up, and in my head I count seconds. So say that's 3 seconds and lower it down, and we see if that works. And then we'll try 2, 4, so on, and you'll find that sort of that sweet spot of time, if you like. And you need to get your ground bait mix right. Irrelevant of what ground bait you're using, you need to get the mix right. It's more important mixing it right than the type of ground bait. Although the type of ground bait is quite important as well, but you want to make it so it's really wet. So as if you squeezed it and kept mushing it up in your hand, it'd almost be like a paste. But I don't want it to make it into a paste. And when I put it in the pot, I make sure it's nice and loose. Had a half decent little run down the edge there, and it's looking quite promising, isn't it, to be honest? Not massive fish, get the odd quality one in between, but they're all weighers, you know. They're nice chunky fish, and I'm feeding that short pellet line. I have tried my left hand edge, which is even a little bit deeper. I'd say that's more sort of like 32 inches, but just don't feel right. I've had a couple of liners, it just feels a little bit too deep. And I sat on it for about 5 minutes, didn't catch one, and I've binned it. I thought I don't want to keep feeding two of them. I've still got the rig on my roost there. If I need to bring it back into play later, I can, but for now, I want to keep things simple. So it's much easier to just flick a few pellets on that top kit line just off to my left at 45-degree angle and then fish down this edge. And that's what I'm focusing on now. As we said at the start, when you sort of, we had a little chat in the van with you all. This isn't about points and that. This is an open. It's an Ace of Acorn qualifier. We've already qualified, so we're just fishing it as an open. So we pull our silvers net off there and get our spare net in, because I don't really like to put more than about £40 in the net, because I am a terrible judge as well. I mean, when I say £40, I could have 45, even £50, sometimes over that in a net. So I've filled 4 nets now. I've had a really good run down that edge. Obviously, I've cut a bit of film out, so we've put in our last net. And the edge is working really, really well. And what I've found is I use my medium cab pot when I've got fish there. When it goes a bit slow and I don't feel like I've got fish there, I put on my large guru pot, and I pot with that for 2 or 3 times. And sometimes you can catch bigger fish when you use the bigger pot. But if you keep doing it, what happens is you end up getting too many fish in your peg. Sounds crazy, I know, but they get a little bit more uncatchable. I mean, you will catch, but you can find yourself being sat there for quite a while. And I don't want to do that. I want to I don't really worry about the size of the fish. I want to bite within 30 seconds, really. Fishing on sort of snake lakes and such is very different to their sort of big open lake cousins we fish for. That's sort of big pots, isn't it? 250 ml pots, 2 or 3 pots of ground bait, slosh it all about, couple of worms on the hook. It's very different this with snake lakes. You can fish for them a little bit more like their F1s. I don't fish massively for F1s, but I know that's the right sort of way. So back on that top kit of line now, just to rest that down the edge. It's only worth 1 or 2 fish at a time, but it gives me that edge of sort of 8-9 minute rest, which is enough. I don't want to be off it any more than that. The kit on this line, if you're interested in the 3 foot of water, is just the same as we were doing next to the bridge. So it's 018 main line, 014 hook length, a small latex, pure latex band, and a size 18 hook. I do go up to an 18 because we're using a 6mm pellet on that. When I'm across, I'll use a 20 because we're using a 4mm pellet. And those fishes down the edge, believe it or not, I haven't seen one tail pattern. But I suppose 28 inches is quite a bit of depth, isn't it? So they can sort of sneak in without tailing up, can't they? I really expected the the left hand side to be the best, because it's got that little bit more water movement, a little bit more edge. You're on the edge of that sort of ripple coming down and that, and it looks a little bit still to me, right? But just goes to show that that's where they want to be. Maybe it's because it's closer to the bridge. I'm not too sure. I just know it's our best line today by far, and it really is going to game plan, which is lovely when it happens like that. The last thing to really say on the ground bait down the edge is what ground bait to use. Now, there's many different ground baits on the market, and I know it can be quite confusing at times. And I'm not affiliated with any sort of bait sponsors or anything now. Several that work. Um, Blake's have an edge mix that's very good. I have used the Sonia bait, sort of chunky fish one, and I do like this time of year now, July, August, September, when the fish really want to fatten up before winter. I think you want ground bait with quite a few particles in. The sort of ground bait I have and I'm using, and how stodgy I make it, you wouldn't want to put it for a riddle. You couldn't. knew he was a farmer.